The morning sun barely lit the cold waters of the East Sea as Park Tahoe checked his equipment one last time. His small research boat rocked gently on the waves. At 35, he had spent more time with sea creatures than with people, and he liked it that way. The quiet of the ocean helped him think better. Water temperature normal. Time to collect samples, he said to himself, writing in his logbook. He had been doing this job for 7 years at the remote research station, but today felt different somehow. The research station sat alone on a tiny island, far from the busy cities of South Korea. Most scientists didn't want to work here. It was too far from everything. But for Tahoe, that was exactly why he loved it. As he lowered his collection nets into the water, something caught his eye. A strange blue light glowed deep beneath the surface. At first, he thought it might be a new kind of jellyfish, but the light was too steady, too artificial. "That's not normal," he muttered, pulling his nets back up. Whatever was down there, it wasn't the plankton samples he was looking for. He switched on his boat's depth scanner. The screen showed something large and smooth, definitely not a sea creature. Tahoe knew he should radio the main station. Strange objects in these waters usually meant military business, but curiosity got the better of him. He put on his diving gear, checking each strap carefully. After all these years, the routine was automatic. The water was cold as he slipped in, but his suit kept him warm enough. He followed the blue light down. At 15 meters deep, he found it. A capsule about the size of a small car. It looked like polished metal, but it felt different when he touched it. The surface rippled like water under his fingers. "What are you?" he whispered through his breathing mask. As if in answer, part of the capsule turned clear like glass. Tahoe's heart nearly stopped. Inside was a woman, or something that looked very much like a woman. Her skin had a slight blue tint, and faint patterns of light moved under it like waves. Small slits that looked like gills lined her neck. She wasn't moving. Tahoe pressed his hand against the clear section, and the whole capsule changed. It softened and opened like a flower. The woman started to sink. Without thinking, Tahoe caught her. She was surprisingly light in the water. His mind raced. Protocol said he should call this in immediately. The military would come. Scientists in hazmat suits would take over. The woman, the alien, would disappear into some secret lab. He thought of the fish he studied, how they suffered in small tanks. How would they treat her? The woman's chest moved slightly. She was breathing, somehow able to take in the seawater through her gills. Her face looked peaceful, almost human except for those faint glowing patterns. Tahoe made his decision. He carefully brought her to the surface, keeping her gills underwater. His boat had a special tank for larger marine life. It wasn't perfect, but it would work for now. As he lifted her into it, her eyelids flickered but didn't open. The capsule was the harder problem. He couldn't leave it for someone else to find. After 3 dives and a lot of struggling, he managed to attach it to his boat's crane. The metal, or whatever it was, had become smaller, more compact, as if it knew it needed to be moved. "I must be crazy," Tahoe said as he covered both tank and capsule with tarps. The morning's simple research trip had turned into something from a science fiction story. But as he looked at the woman's sleeping face through the tank's glass, he knew he couldn't have done anything else. He started the boat's engine, heading for the hidden cove behind the research station. Nobody ever went there because of the rough rocks, but Tahoe knew a safe path through them. He had found it during his first year here, always keeping it as his secret place to think. Now it would have to be more than that. It would have to be a shelter for someone who had fallen from the stars. As he steered carefully between the rocks, Tahoe wondered what would happen when she woke up. Would she be friendly? Dangerous? Could she even survive in Earth's waters? The answer to all his questions lay sleeping in the tank behind him, her strange bioluminescent patterns casting soft blue light across the boat's deck. One thing was certain, His quiet life of research was about to become much more interesting. 3 days passed since Tai-ho brought the alien woman to his secret cove. He had moved her to a larger tank in an old storage room, one that he used to help injured sea animals heal. The glowing patterns under her skin had grown stronger each day, which he hoped meant she was getting better. He sat beside the tank, checking the water quality for the 5th time that day. "Everything looks good," he said quietly, writing in a new notebook he kept hidden in his jacket. "Water temperature stable. Oxygen levels normal." A small movement caught his eye. The woman's fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened, revealing irises that shimmered like mother-of-pearl. Tai-ho stayed very still, not wanting to frighten her. She blinked several times, then turned her head to look at him. Her movements were smooth, natural in the water. She didn't seem scared. Instead, she looked curious. "Hello," Tai-ho said softly. "You're safe here." The woman tilted her head, studying him. Then she pressed her hand against the glass. Her lips moved, but all that came out were musical sounds that reminded Tai-ho of whale songs. He pressed his hand against the glass opposite hers. "I'm Tai-ho. Park Tai-ho." She pointed to herself and made another musical sound. Then she frowned slightly. Her throat moved, and she tried again. "Tita. Ho." Her voice was clear even through the water, though it had a strange echo to it. "Yes." He smiled, surprised and delighted. "Tai-ho." He pointed to himself, then gestured to her with a questioning look. She seemed to think for a moment, listening to the sounds around her. From outside, the cry of a seabird could be heard. Her eyes brightened with interest at each new sound. "Nari," she finally said, pointing to herself. "I am Nari." Her words were careful, but her pronunciation was almost perfect. Tai-ho's scientific mind was racing. She was learning Korean incredibly fast, just by listening to him speak. "How can you understand me so quickly?" he asked, keeping his words simple. Nari smiled and touched her throat. The glowing patterns their pulse brighter. "We learn fast. Part of who we are." She spoke slowly but clearly. "Your language is not hard. Simple sounds." Over the next few hours, they talked. Nari's vocabulary grew with each passing minute. She told him she came from a world called something that sounded like singing bubbles in water. Her people lived in the deep oceans there, building cities in the darkest trenches. "We explore," she explained, her hand movements becoming more confident as she spoke. "Look for other life. Other worlds with oceans." She paused, searching for words. "Not meant to be seen yet. Watch only. But my ship." She made a downward spiraling motion with her hand. "It was damage." Tai-ho guessed. Nari nodded. "Had to land. Emergency." She touched the glass again. "You helped. Others might not have helped." Tai-ho thought about what would have happened if someone else had found her. "Why do you look so human?" he asked. "Except for the gills and the lights." "Many worlds, life looks same," she said. "Ocean makes same shapes. Good shapes for swimming." She demonstrated with a graceful move through the water. But inside, she tapped her chest. Very different. A sudden noise from outside made them both freeze. Footsteps on the gravel path. Someone was coming. "Hide," Tai-ho whispered quickly. Nari immediately dove to the bottom of the tank, her glowing patterns dimming until they were almost invisible against the dark bottom. The door opened. It was Lee Sun-mai, another researcher from the station. "Tai-ho, are you in here? You missed the morning meeting. And what's that tank doing here?" "Just helping some injured fish," Tai-ho said quickly. "Lost track of time. Sorry about the meeting." Sun-mai looked suspicious, but nodded. "Well, don't forget about tomorrow's equipment check. The new sonar system needs calibrating." After she left, Nari rose slowly to the surface. "Dangerous?" she asked. "Not Sun-mai herself," Tai-ho explained. "But if people find out about you, I don't know what would happen. Nari's patterns flickered with what he was starting to recognize as concern. Need to contact my people soon. Not safe to stay. Looking at her worried face, Taiho realized just how complicated things were becoming. He had saved her, yes. But now he had to find a way to help her return home, all while keeping her existence a secret from his colleagues and the government. As if reading his thoughts, Nari gave him a gentle smile that somehow made him feel everything would work out. A week had passed since Nari first woke up. Taiho sat at his desk in the research station, staring at his computer screen. Red dots blinked on the satellite map of the area. Government ships. They were getting closer to the station every day. His phone buzzed. A message from Sunmai. Military called. They're coming tomorrow for inspection. Something about strange signals in the water. Taiho's hands got cold. He knew what those signals were. Every night, Nari had been trying to contact her people using the patterns of light under her skin. The military must have spotted the unusual energy readings. He hurried to the storage room. Nari was practicing writing Korean characters on a waterproof tablet he had given her. She looked up as he entered, but her smile faded when she saw his face. "They're coming," she said. It wasn't a question. After just a week, she could read his expressions well. Tomorrow. Taiho showed her the satellite map on his phone. These ships, they're looking for anything unusual. For you. Nari's patterns pulsed with worry. What will they do if they find me? Taiho sat heavily in his chair. Tests. Questions. You would be kept in a lab somewhere. They wouldn't understand that you're... He stopped, frustrated. That I'm a person. Nari finished. Her voice was gentle. Your people fear what they don't understand. Like many worlds we've watched. Taiho nodded. He had a choice to make, and not much time to make it. As a scientist, he should report everything. His notes, his observations of Nari learning their language, her advanced intelligence. It could change how humans saw their place in the universe. But as he watched Nari tracing Korean letters in the water, he remembered how she laughed when she first learned the word for fish. How she told him stories about her world's giant underwater forests. How her eyes lit up when she learned something new. I have to get you out of here, he said finally, before they come. But you'll be in trouble, Nari said. They'll know someone helped me. I'll say I was out on my boat when I saw strange lights, that I investigated but found nothing. He tried to sound more confident than he felt. They can't prove anything if you're not here. Nari swam to the glass, placing her hand against it. My people will remember this, Taiho. Your kindness. A loud bang made them both jump. Someone was at the main door of the station. Taiho checked his phone. No new messages. This wasn't a planned visit. Stay quiet, he whispered to Nari. She dove to the bottom of the tank, her lights dimming to almost nothing. Taiho opened the main door. Two men in dark suits stood there. Behind them, he could see a black car with government plates. Dr. Park. One man said, I'm Agent Kim from the National Intelligence Service. We're here about some unusual readings in your area. Readings? Taiho kept his face blank. What kind of readings? Energy patterns unlike anything we've seen before. Agent Kim tried to look past him into the station. We'd like to have a look around. Of course, Taiho said, stepping aside. But I have to warn you, we're in the middle of several sensitive experiments. Some of our equipment is very delicate. As he led them through the station, Taiho's mind raced. The storage room door was locked, but for how long would that stop them? And what about tomorrow's inspection? The agents spent an hour checking every room they could access. They asked about his research, about any unusual sightings. Taiho answered everything truthfully, except about what was in the locked storage room. After they left, he ran back to Nari. She emerged from the bottom of the tank, her patterns showing concern. Tonight, he said firmly. We have to get you out tonight. Nari nodded. The capsule can still work. It will take me deep enough to be safe. But Taiho, she hesitated. Thank you for choosing to help. Again. Looking at the setting sun through the window, Taiho knew he should be scared. His career, his life's work, everything was at risk. But somehow, seeing Neri's grateful smile made him sure he was doing the right thing. Now he just had to figure out how to get an alien and her capsule past government surveillance in the next few hours. Midnight came with a new moon, making the night perfectly dark. Taiho checked his boat one last time. He had turned off all tracking devices and covered the registration numbers. The capsule was already hidden under heavy tarps in the back. The patrol boats passed by at 12:30 and 2:15. He whispered to Neri, who floated in a portable tank. "We have to move between their rounds." Neri's patterns glowed softly in the darkness. She had spent the last few hours teaching him how to read her light signals. 1 pulse meant yes. 2 meant no. 3 meant danger. It was a simple code, but it might save their lives tonight. "Ready?" he asked. 1 pulse. Yes. Taiho started the engine, keeping it as quiet as possible. The boat slipped out of the hidden cove like a ghost. He had turned off all lights, steering by memory and the dim glow of his compass. The government ships showed up as large shadows on his radar screen. 5 of them, making slow circles around the area. Taiho's hands were sweaty on the wheel as he guided his small boat through the gaps in their pattern. A spotlight swept across the water ahead. Taiho cut the engine immediately. They drifted in silence, hearts pounding. The light passed just in front of them, not finding their dark boat in the darkness. Neri's patterns flashed 3 times. Danger. Taiho heard it too, the low thrum of an approaching engine. He looked at his radar. One of the patrol boats had changed course. It was heading straight for them. Without starting the engine, he quickly dropped a small anchor. Then he grabbed the diving gear he had prepared. "Time for Plan B," he whispered. They had discussed this possibility. It would be risky, but they had no choice. Taiho helped Neri out of her tank and into the water. She held onto the boat's ladder as he put on his diving gear. The patrol boat was getting closer. Its spotlight danced across the waves, coming nearer with each sweep. They had maybe 2 minutes before it reached them. Taiho slipped into the water next to Neri. Together, they untied the capsule from his boat. It took both of them to hold it. Even though it had somehow made itself smaller, it was still heavy. Just as the spotlight was about to reach his boat, they went under. The dark water closed over their heads. Neri's patterns provided just enough light for Taiho to see. They kicked hard, pulling the capsule deeper. Above them, the patrol boat's engines grew louder. Its sonar would be scanning the water. But Neri had explained that her capsule absorbed sonar waves. It would look like nothing more than a large rock to their instruments. They swam for 20 minutes, going deeper and further out to sea. Taiho's arms ached from holding the capsule, but he didn't dare let go. Finally, Neri signaled for them to stop. They had reached the edge of the underwater cliff. Beyond it, the seafloor dropped away into darkness. This was where they had to say goodbye. The capsule began to change under their hands. It softened and opened, just as it had when Taiho first found it. Neri turned to him, her face visible in the glow of her patterns. "My people will come," she said, her voice clear even underwater thanks to her abilities. "We will remember what you did." Taiho could only nod. His diving mask hid his expression, but Neri seemed to understand anyway. She touched his hand gently. "Watch the deep waters," she said. "We will return." Then she slipped into the capsule. It closed around her like a flower closing for the night. The capsule began to sink, moving smoothly into the deep darkness below the cliff. Taiho watched until its faint glow disappeared completely. His air gauge showed he needed to surface soon. As he slowly rose through the dark water, he saw the lights of the patrol boats in the distance. They were clustered around his empty boat, no doubt wondering why it was anchored out here with no one aboard. He smiled behind his mask. Let them wonder. By the time they figured anything out, Neri would be safely hidden in the ocean depths. He had chosen to help her, and he would face whatever came next. Breaking the surface far from his boat, Tai-ho looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was Nari's homeworld. He hoped she would make it back safely. More than that, he hoped she had meant what she said about returning. The night wasn't over yet. He still had to swim to shore and come up with a good story about his missing boat. But for now, he let himself float on his back, watching the stars and thinking about the incredible secret he now carried. 3 months had passed since the night Nari disappeared into the deep ocean. Tai-ho's life had changed completely. After they found his empty boat, the government kept him under close watch. 2 agents now lived at the research station, watching everything he did. He sat in his office, pretending to work while Agent Kim stood by the window. The agent never spoke much, just watched. Always watched. "Dr. Park," Agent Kim said suddenly, "the monitors are showing something strange." Tai-ho walked to the bank of screens that showed data from their underwater sensors. His heart nearly stopped. There were patterns in the readings, patterns that looked very familiar. "Just ocean noise," he said calmly, though his hands were shaking. "We see this sometimes when large whale pods pass through." But he knew better. The patterns matched Nari's bioluminescent signals perfectly. 3 long pulses, 2 short ones, then a pause. Over and over. He had spent enough time with her to recognize it. "Seoul wants us to investigate," Agent Kim said. "A boat will be here in an hour." Tai-ho nodded, trying to look professional and bored. Inside, his mind was racing. The signals were coming from the same deep trench where he had last seen Nari. Was she trying to contact him? The research boat left the dock exactly 1 hour later. Tai-ho stood at the back, working the sonar equipment while Agent Kim and 3 other government men watched the screens inside the cabin. "Signal getting stronger," one of the agents reported. "Whatever it is, it's big." Tai-ho adjusted his equipment, pretending to be focused on the readings, but his eyes kept moving to the water. The ocean was calm today, almost too calm. It reminded him of the morning he had first found Nari. Suddenly, all the electronic equipment went dead. The boat's engines stopped too. They were drifting. "What's happening?" Agent Kim demanded, running out of the cabin. "Power failure," Tai-ho said, but he was looking at the water. Small points of light were appearing beneath the surface, hundreds of them, like stars in the night sky. A voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking in perfect Korean. "We have returned." The agents drew their guns, pointing them at the water. Tai-ho wanted to tell them how useless that was, but before he could speak, something huge rose from the waves. It was like Nari's capsule, but much bigger. The size of a small ship. Its surface rippled with the same strange patterns he remembered. As it rose higher, water streaming off its sides, Tai-ho saw familiar lights moving under its surface. The front of the vessel became clear like glass, and there she was, Nari, surrounded by others of her kind. They all had the same graceful features, the same glowing patterns under their skin. But Nari was the one smiling directly at him. "Lower your weapons," she said, her voice carrying easily through the air. "We come in peace." Agent Kim was speaking rapidly into his radio, but it wasn't working. Nothing electronic was working except the alien vessel itself. "Tai-ho," Nari said warmly. "You kept our secret, protected our existence. Now it is time for us to thank you properly." More vessels were rising from the water now, each one different in shape, but all made of the same strange material. The agents stood frozen, their guns lowered, as they watched the impossible scene unfold. "Your people are ready now," Nari continued. "Ready to learn about us. Ready to join something bigger." She looked at Agent Kim and the others. "We have watched humanity for a long time. But it was Tai-ho who showed us that humans could be trusted, that they could show kindness to those who are different." Tai-ho felt tears in his eyes. "You came back," was all he could say. "Of course." Nari's patterns glowed brightly. "We had a gift to bring. One that will change everything." As she spoke, the largest vessel opened like a flower blooming. Inside was something that glowed with a soft blue light. Even from the boat, Tai-ho could feel its power. The agents were no longer pointing guns. They were staring in wonder, just like him. In that moment, as alien ships rose from the sea, and Neri smiled down at them all, Tai-ho knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The quiet marine biologist who had helped an alien visitor had set something huge in motion. Now he would see what his simple act of kindness would bring to the world. The world changed quickly after that day on the boat. Within hours, news of the alien contact spread across the globe. Pictures and videos of the ships rising from the ocean appeared on every screen. Everyone wanted to know more about the visitors from the deep. 1 week later, Tai-ho stood in a large meeting room in Seoul. Government officials from many countries filled the chairs. Neri floated in a special water tank at the front of the room, her patterns glowing softly as she spoke. "Our gift is not just technology," she explained. "It is a chance to heal your oceans." Behind her, a large screen showed images of strange devices. They looked like silver shells with glowing blue lines running through them. Each one was about the size of a car. "These are ocean cleaners," Neri continued. "They remove plastic, chemicals, and other pollution from the water. They also help sea life grow strong again." Tai-ho watched the faces in the room. Just days ago, these same officials had been questioning him for hours about hiding Neri. Now they listened to her with wonder and hope. "We will place these devices in the worst polluted areas first," Neri said. "They work quickly. Within 1 year, your oceans will be much cleaner." A scientist raised his hand. "How do they work?" Neri smiled. "The same way we do." She touched her glowing patterns. "They use light and energy from the water itself. No fuel needed, no waste created." More of Neri's people came forward in the following days. They brought more gifts, ways to clean the air, grow food in the desert, and create clean energy. But the ocean cleaners were the most important gift. Tai-ho helped place the first cleaner in the water near his research station. As soon as it touched the ocean, it came alive. Blue light spread through the water like gentle lightning. Fish swam closer to investigate, not afraid at all. "Watch," Neri said, floating next to him in the water. They had given him a special diving suit that let him breathe underwater like they did. A plastic bottle drifted near the device. The cleaner's light touched it, and the bottle simply disappeared. But it didn't just vanish. Tai-ho could see through his special mask how it changed into tiny pieces that fish could safely eat. "The cleaners don't just remove bad things," Neri explained. "They turn them into good things. Plastic becomes food. Pollution becomes nutrients. Everything has a purpose." Over the next few weeks, more cleaners were placed in oceans around the world. Satellites showed huge areas of water becoming clearer. Dead zones where nothing could live started coming back to life. Tai-ho worked closely with Neri's people, helping other scientists understand how the cleaners worked. His small research station became a busy place, with visitors from all over the world. "You seem happy," Neri said one evening, as they watched the sunset from the beach. The water near the shore was already clearer than he had ever seen it. "I am," he replied. "But I still can't believe all this started because I decided to help you that day." Neri's patterns made shapes that he now knew meant laughter. "One person choosing kindness can change everything," she said. "That's why we chose this gift. It shows how helping others helps everyone." A group of dolphins jumped nearby, their bodies glowing slightly blue from swimming near the cleaners. They were healthier now, stronger. All sea life was improving. "There's more to come," Neri said, watching the dolphins. "This is just the beginning. Your people are ready to learn so much more." Tai-ho looked at the ocean stretching out before them. Already, the water looked different, cleaner, more alive. Ships were reporting new coral growing in dead reefs. Whales were returning to areas they had abandoned years ago. All because he had chosen to help a stranger that morning 3 months ago. all because he had seen someone who needed help and decided to be kind. "What happens next?" he asked. Nari's patterns glowed brightly in the growing darkness. "Next, we teach you how to build these things yourselves. Your people will learn to be caretakers of your world, not just users of it." The first stars were appearing in the sky as they talked. Somewhere up there, Tai-Ho knew, other worlds were waiting. Other oceans needed healing, and Earth was taking its first steps toward joining a much larger community. 2 months after the ocean cleaners began their work, Tai-Ho sat with Nari in a special meeting room. The walls were made of thick glass, filled with water so she could swim freely while they talked. Other alien representatives floated nearby, their patterns glowing in different colors. "There is something we need to tell you," Nari said. Her voice was gentle, but serious, "about how I really came to Earth." Tai-Ho looked up from his notebook. "What do you mean? Your ship was damaged?" "No." Nari's patterns shifted to a deep blue color he had never seen before. "That was not true. I am sorry for the lie, but it was necessary." One of the other aliens moved forward. His patterns glowed in shades of green. "We have visited many worlds," he explained. "Worlds with oceans like yours. But before we share our knowledge, we must know if the people there are ready." "Ready?" Tai-Ho asked, though part of him was beginning to understand. "We test them," Nari said, "by sending one of us to need help, to be vulnerable. The way they treat us shows if they are ready to join the larger community of worlds." Tai-Ho sat back in his chair, thinking about that morning when he found her capsule. "So you weren't really unconscious. It was all a test." "I was aware," Nari admitted, "but everything else was real. My joy at learning your language, my friendship with you, those were not part of the test." The green-patterned alien spoke again. "Many worlds fail the test. They capture our people, try to take our technology by force, or simply ignore those who need help." "What happens to those worlds?" Tai-Ho asked. "We leave them alone," another alien said. "Let them grow more. Maybe in 100 years, they will be ready." Nari moved closer to the glass. "But you, Tai-Ho, you chose differently. You helped someone strange and unknown, even when it put you in danger. You showed the best of what humans can be." "But I'm just one person," Tai-Ho said. "How does that show what all humans are like?" The alien's patterns rippled with what he now knew was their version of laughter. "We sent others," Nari explained, "all around your world. Some appeared as creatures needing help, others as lost travelers, even as children who were alone." "And?" Tai-Ho asked, hardly daring to breathe. "Many humans helped," she said proudly. "Not all, but many, more than most worlds we visit. You were the first, but not the only one who showed kindness to strangers." The green-patterned alien nodded. "That is why we brought the gifts. Your people are ready to learn how to care for your world better. Ready to join something bigger than yourselves." Tai-Ho thought about all the changes that had happened. The oceans getting cleaner, countries working together to place the cleaning devices, scientists learning new ways to help Earth heal. "There are more tests coming," Nari said softly. "Bigger ones. As we share more knowledge, we must see how you use it. Will you help only yourselves? Or will you, like us, learn to help other worlds too?" "What kind of tests?" Tai-Ho asked. "That would defeat the purpose," she said, her patterns showing gentle amusement. "Just know that we are watching. Always watching. Not to judge, but to help you grow." A thought struck Tai-Ho. The day we helped you escape, the government ships, the chase, was that part of the test too? "Yes," Nari admitted. "We needed to see if you would stay true to your kindness even under pressure. You did not disappoint." Tai-Ho looked at all the aliens floating in the water around him. They had been testing humanity all along, in ways big and small, and somehow, enough humans had passed those tests to give their whole species a chance. "What happens next?" he asked. "Next," Nari said, her patterns bright with excitement, We teach you how to help others the way we helped you. There are many worlds out there, Taiho. Many oceans that need healing. Many beings who need kindness. Looking at her bright, hopeful expression, Taiho realized that this was just the beginning. His simple act of helping someone in need had opened the door to something much bigger than he could have imagined. And somewhere out there, other aliens were probably testing other worlds, waiting to see who would show kindness to a stranger in need. 1 year after the aliens revealed themselves, Taiho's small research station had become something amazing. The simple buildings were now surrounded by large glass domes filled with water, where the alien visitors could live comfortably. People called it the Ocean Embassy. Taiho walked through the main dome, watching alien children play with human children in a special pool. The human kids wore the new breathing masks that let them swim like the aliens. Their laughter echoed through the water. The children adapt so easily, Neri said, swimming up beside him. They don't see differences. They just see new friends. She was right. The children had been the first to accept the aliens completely. They didn't care that their new friends had gills or glowing skin. They just wanted to play and learn together. The first school opens next week, Taiho reminded her. It was a special school where human and alien children would learn together. Are you ready to teach? Neri's patterns glowed with excitement. Yes, the children will learn both our languages, both our ways of thinking. They will grow up knowing we are all connected. They moved to the next dome, where scientists from around the world worked with alien experts. The ocean cleaners had done their job well. Now they were working on new projects, ways to clean the air, grow food in harsh places, and heal damaged lands. Dr. Park, a young scientist, waved to him. She was working with an alien to study how their patterns could turn light into energy. The new tests are amazing. Look. Taiho watched as they demonstrated their discovery. The aliens' patterns glowed in a special way, and suddenly plants in the test tank grew twice as fast. It was like they had found a way to speed up nature itself. Soon we can help dry lands become green again, the scientists said happily. No more deserts unless nature means for them to be deserts. In another part of the dome, Taiho found Sunmi working with alien doctors. They were finding ways to use the aliens' healing lights to cure human sickness. Already, they had helped many people who were very ill. Remember when I almost caught you hiding, Nari? Sunmi asked, laughing. I thought you were acting strange. Now look at all this. The biggest change was in how people treated each other. Working with the aliens had taught humans to be more kind, more understanding. Countries that used to fight were now working together to help Earth heal. You should see the letters we get, said Agent Kim, who now helped run the embassy's security. He had changed too, becoming one of their strongest supporters. People everywhere want to help, want to learn, want to be part of this. Taiho walked to his favorite spot, a quiet pool where he could look out at the ocean. The water was so clear now that he could see fish swimming far below. New coral reefs were growing where there had been only empty sand before. Thinking deep thoughts, Nari asked, joining him. Remembering, he said, 1 year ago, I was just a lonely scientist studying plankton. Now look at everything that's happened. Nari touched the glass with one hand. You were never just a scientist. You were a bridge. The first bridge between our peoples. Now there are many bridges, but you were the first to show it was possible. They watched as a group of whales swam past, their songs clearer in the clean water. The whales were talking to aliens who swam with them, learning each other's languages. The other worlds are watching, Nari said softly. They see how well humans have accepted us, how eagerly you learn, how much you want to help. Are we passing the new tests? Taiho asked. Nari's patterns made the swirling shapes that meant joy. Better than we hoped. Soon, you will be ready to help us visit other worlds. To be the ones who test them, who offer them chances to join us. The sun was setting, making the ocean turn golden. From where they stood, Taiho could see humans and aliens working together in every dome. Scientists, teachers, children, leaders, all learning from each other, all growing together. His simple research station had become a bridge between worlds. And somewhere out there, other worlds were waiting, hoping for their chance to join this amazing new community. 5 years had passed since Taiho first found Neri's capsule in the East Sea. He stood on the deck of a large ship, watching teams of humans and aliens work together in the waters below. They were bringing life back to a dead coral reef near Australia. "Remember when you thought you were just helping one lost alien?" Neri asked, floating in the water next to the ship. Her patterns had grown brighter over the years, showing her happiness. "Sometimes I still can't believe how much has changed," Taiho said, smiling at his old friend. The oceans were clean now. Fish had returned to empty seas. Whales sang in waters they had left long ago. But that was just the beginning of what they had done together. In the distance, he could see the huge floating cities they had built. Clear domes rose from the water like giant bubbles, each one a place where humans and aliens lived and worked together. They called them the Bridge Cities. "The first student ships leave next week," Neri said excitedly. "Are you ready?" Taiho nodded. After years of learning from the aliens, humans were ready to help other worlds too. Young people from Earth would join alien teams visiting new planets, helping test if they were ready to join the galactic community. "They're so eager to help others," he said, watching some young students practice with their underwater breathing equipment. "Just like we were helped." A large shadow passed overhead. Taiho looked up to see one of the new ships they had built together. It could travel through water as easily as air, and soon through space too. Its design combined human creativity with alien wisdom. "Your people learned so fast," Neri said proudly. "Faster than any world we've helped before." "Because you trusted us," Taiho replied. "You showed us how to be better, but let us find our own way to do it." They watched as a group of children swam past, human and alien together. They were part of the first generation to grow up in this new world. To them, it was normal to have friends with gills and glowing skin. A small screen on Taiho's wrist lit up. It showed a message from Sunmai, who now led their medical research team. They had found a way to use alien light patterns to cure another human disease. "Good news?" Neri asked, seeing his smile. "Very good," he said. "The new treatment works. More lives saved." That was happening all over Earth now. Scientists working together to solve problems. Countries sharing resources instead of fighting. People learning to care for their world and each other. "The Council wants to speak with you," Neri said after a while. "About the new worlds we found." The Council was a group of humans and aliens who made big decisions together. They had found 3 new worlds with oceans, worlds that might be ready to join them. "They want you to lead the first contact team," Neri continued. "You know better than anyone how to do it right." Taiho thought about that morning 5 years ago, when he had chosen to help a stranger instead of following rules. Now he could help others make the same choice. "Will you come with me?" he asked Neri. Her patterns swirled with joy. "Always. We started this together. We should continue together." The sun was setting, turning the ocean to gold just like that first day. But now the water was full of life. Humans swam freely with aliens. Ships that could touch the stars floated on waves that were clean and clear. "Look," Neri said softly, pointing to the horizon. A pod of whales was swimming past the bridge city. With them were aliens teaching a group of human children their songs. The children's voices joined with whale song and alien music, making something completely new and beautiful. "That's our real legacy," Taiho said. "Not the clean oceans or the new cities, but teaching people to reach out to those who are different, to be kind, to help." Neri touched his hand, her patterns glowing warmly. "One person's kindness changed your whole world," she said. "Now you will help change other worlds too." Together, they watched the sun sink into the clean, living sea. Tomorrow they would begin planning their journey to new worlds. But for now, they simply enjoyed what they had helped create, a Earth where kindness had built bridges between the stars.